So you'll match upon an boyo. Passes singing amote mama, alingi boye. Oh, Lokutana yama be mama, masumu, double.
And it's time to say hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you're just joining us on this beautiful Tuesday night, we'd like to say a big welcome to another decided edition of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live on BRIDGERADIO Africa. I know some heard the name, some heard people talk about it. Hey, we are back at it again. At this time, you've come on time to sort of put the name to the face. All right, so that we can together all have great time tonight. So you might just want to grab something to drink, whether it's a cup of coffee, tea, Fanta, Kool-Aid, you know, and you can also get the popcorn rolling. All right, so that so now we are talking about communications. The mobile phone companies in Liberia are going back and forth with LTA. So who's telling the truth? And we have a professional from that has communications background. And we also have a business professional who knows about everything. So they are both going to tell us who's doing what it's supposed to do and who is not doing what. So with that said, I don't have the options to share the video. Please do so. In my behalf, invite a few friends as we all get ready to get the ball rolling. And tonight, I just want to take time out first off to recognize a few friends. Musa Sharif, Charles Russell, UJ Victor Morgan, Sarah Jackson, Seba Harris, May Carter, Samiria Pratt, McCanvey, Kana Sonet. I also see Jackson Blambo, Clay Senior, and we see here Franklin K. Wisset. And of course, I don't have to look for his name. Afin Perry is always on time. Sharif Habib is here. Annie Boyd, the beautiful wife of the Honorable Larry Toba is in the building as well. And hey, if all of you can just take time out to share the video, we'll be in business. So do just that, please. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, tough times don't last. Tough people do. And of course, the height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. And that's why you can't see okra and swallow bone, because you can't hide your nakedness from David Bucket. Then the next question would be, a bald-headed man can never walk on the moonlight, because your bald head will show. This has been yours truly. This is the man. He's back home to doing what he loves to do. Folks, just sit to buy your gift. Seven plora na jaku mo chiraji. That now you know me go. What it no muzo ni one je madobo. He's the giant, but he doesn't eat iron, and that's why he's stronger than a lion. The medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia, ASHFORD the Giant Garley. Welcome to the show.
Hey, hey, okay. Hey, hey. Producer Masareko at New York.
Mr. Abu Bibito Fofanan is also in the building tonight, and we see Lua Card Malone. There's also your Jude Robinson Tier, Ambassador Mambo Sherman, Etta Smith, Roland Pajuet, and we'll also see the Martha Card. And at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take time out to introduce to you that was special guests. Starting out with the telecommunications guru, professional, Mr. TOYUWA Harris. Mr. Harris, hello and welcome to the show.
ASHFORD GARLEY, thank you for having me. That golden voice is still on the airways. That's a good thing to hear.
Thank you. And then we also have with us Mr. Stephen Johnson. He's a business professional. This man has been in the business for a minute. Stephen, welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you, ASHFORD. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be on your show.
Let us begin with Steve. Steve, we'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to give us your opening statement, and then we can go from there. Steve Johnson.
Well, thank you, ASHFORD. Again, it's a pleasure to be here. And let me first indicate here that I'm not a telecommunication expert, and I do not profess to be one. But based on the information that are out there and looking at it from both angles, I thought it was important for me to weigh in and give my views on this issue. And again, thank you for the opportunity. After having read the communications both from the governor of Liberia and the telecommunications company, for short, the MNOs, and piggybacking on the most recent one from Orange, which laid the basis for which the company decided to institute the surcharges. Well, you can recall that months ago, the company had challenged the governor of Liberia against the backdrop that the government was suggesting that the company will add additional cost, in the form of a surcharge to its already established costs. And so what the company realized, based on the information that are out there, is that to do so will mean that, and this is just general business principle, where when businesses are taxed, whether through what means of taxation from the regulatory agency in government, they tend to, it trickles down to the consumer, because the goal of every business is to maximize profit. And so in order to maximize profit, one will realize that any additional cost that will compel the business, to increase its costs will trickle down to the ordinary consumer. And so,
thank you.
Let me just close on this, ASHFORD. And since the government surcharge was not in the form of a tax, but rather an additional cost to the already established rates, the company felt that they should add that particular cost to the current cost and determine the current amount, and that amount will be paid by the consumer.
Thank you, Stephen Johnson. That in his opening statement will now go to Mr. TOYUWA Harris. TOYUWA.
Yes, I'm a follower of Liberian telecommunications history. I'll show you a book, Liberia Telecommunications. It was written by Sam Watkins. I've been in this space since I was a kid. I was a ball player, but I've been in this space peripherally, and so I've been following this space. This whole thing that's going on right now, my brother laid it out like any businessman would. But the history behind it is not only business. This increase was fully taxes for them not to pay taxes. You understand what's going on? The back taxes that they owe, it probably, I'm getting 16.5 million, those kind of numbers, right? But they're trying not to pay the taxes, so they increase it. They lost the case in court. Now, if we are a country of laws, and we expect Steve Johnson to go to court and win a case, and the case and the litigants or the case follow the order of the court, which we all expect in any business transaction. The court's supposed to protect you. They went to the highest court of the land. They lost the case. This whole issue, the history, and the reason why I said this is the history, Celcom came to Liberia in 2004. Celcom came to Liberia in 2004. It was Jewish boys. They needed, when they wanted to get out of Liberia, they needed to build a subscriber base. They instituted the free call thing, and the free call thing gave them 1.4 million subscribers. So when you're a businessman, Steve, I want to sell a GSM company to you. Your main focus is what's your subscriber base. So in order for them to increase their subscriber base, they instituted these free calls, these 3-day calls, and all of that. Ben and I, wrote a letter to Elliot. He complained back then about the predatory pricing. Now, predatory pricing is the technical term. In business, it means that if I want to, if Walmart wants to put the man in the corner out of business and that man selling tires, Walmart will sell the tires less than cost. They will not make a profit on it. But they will do it long enough to put you out of business because they got other revenue streams that can take the loss. So Orange has multiple revenue streams that can take this loss. So they were willing to price Lone Star out of the market. So RTA came in, and I must give my friend and brother Zah a lot of credit for this. Zah came in, and that's what caused problem with Zah, but Zah was looking out for the country. Zah said, if we continue this way, we will have a monopoly.
Thank you, Harris. Thank you. Now, let the argument begin, and I want to start off.
I don't think it's going to be an argument. I think it's going to be a discussion.
That discussion, the conversation began.
Yeah.
And
I can't argue with Steve.
from one of the things TOYUWA talked about. Steve, in every serious country, including Liberia, paying taxes is a must. Now, TOYUWA just said that the phone companies are not willing to pay their taxes, their fair share of the taxes. Why don't you think the argument is valid?
Well, ASHFORD, I've worked extensively in tax administration, and I know one of the biggest.
On which side of it? On the government side or the private side?
From the government side.
Okay.
So one of the biggest questions that tax administrator will struggle to answer is the question of whether to persuade or to pursue. And the answer to that question can be a determination as to the kind of tax mechanism one put in place in order to realize the collection of those taxes. So do you pursue, or do you persuade? Now, pursue will mean that you provide some level of flexibility, by offering some incentive so that taxpayer can be motivated to want to pay taxes. Persuade will mean also that you try to go after them legally, where you use the law against them. Now, in this particular case, the government opted to persuade. pursue, meaning to go after them using the legal means. Now, let us also indicate here that I do not speak on behalf of the cell phone company. You know, I'm not a spokesman for the cell phone company. But what I know based on the information that are out there is when the company took the case to court, one of the things they wanted to know was as to whether the particular surcharge that the government was indicating was an additional tax. Now, what happened was that the court ruled and said that no, this was not an additional tax, but rather it was an additional cost. It was an additional cost.
It was a regulation. It was a regulatory.
So it was the court ruled based on the decision from the Supreme Court that it was an additional cost. So yes, what the cell phone company did, since they were already selling, for instance, if you are selling a bottle of water for $1, and there's an additional cost attached to that bottle of water by the regulator, say now you got to add 50 cents on your bottle of water. And this is where the government missed it. The government had set a price floor, but then there is not a price cap, which is the ceiling, right? So if you want me, for instance, if you want me to keep selling my bottle of water for $1, and then at the same time you suggesting that I should add 50 additional cents on my bottle of water, from the government angle, they meant that you should reduce your already price by 50 cents and add government price, the new additional cost, which will still take it to $1. Forgetting to know that there's a lost 50 cents there that the company will incur. So because the company will, and that is the rational thing any business company will do, is that they don't want to incur that 50 cent loss. So what they will do, they will transfer that loss to the consumer. So what the company did was, instead of selling the bottle of water for $1, they added the 50 cents on the dollar and start selling the water for $1.50, meaning that additional cost was transferred now to the consumers, which is fair business practice. You know, it happens everywhere in the world. Like I said in my opening comment is that the goal of every business to maximize profit. You know, when you get into business, your overarching goal is to maximize profit, and so that has been the modus operandi of the cell phone company. They wanted to. So now, the government, you see, and that's what I tell people. Liberia is an emerging democracy. There are huge challenges, and so when a government opts to go after taxpayer in ways where you know they have to engage in a legal battle, at the end of the day, the ordinary people will feel the bunch of the pain, because these companies are operating from an advantageous point. First thing is, you have a country where the majority of your citizenry are unemployed. You have a situation where the majority of your people cannot afford $1 meal a day, at least to talk about maintaining, you know, cell phone expensive. You have a situation where there are no jobs. The government has failed to create, you know, the kinds of job that will spark that kind of economic revolution. We've not been able to do that, and so the company seems to be operating from a position of strength, unlike the government. Because if you press them and they say, you know what, let's just shut down, but who fees it? You know, the window for a new company to come in, for people to go back and get SIM cards, all those new things, you know, those are headaches that the consumers are not willing to bear. So I had thought that and I can see where the government is coming from. The government is cash strapped. The government has not been able to develop creative means through which it can source additional revenue. So the little opportunity it has for people paying taxes in the country, they want to stretch them to the optimum, forgetting to know that if you stretch businesses to the optimum in terms of how much money they can pay in taxes, you essentially saying increase prices so that that burden, instead of it coming now on the business, can be on the consumer. In this case, the ordinary Liberian, majority of whom are unemployed, They don't have any source of income. They cannot even provide the basic needs.
Told you why he sees where the government is coming from, and what do you know so far?
Well, first of all, the cost you're talking about, the additional cost based on regulation, right? The floor pricing. The floor pricing, so the additional cost added to the floor pricing was not even close to the increase. The increase was a bully tactic. The increase went maybe 50% more. So the increase was like a slap in your face. So the regulator now, you see, this is a different industry because the regulator is not like we selling rice. I mean, rice, peanut butter is a political product too. So it's not like we selling beer here and the regulator come and add something that we added to it. The whole thing here, the whole issue, and I keep retaining it, and that's why I mentioned history. This whole issue, it started from Celcom predatory pricing. They dirtied the market. Remember, there was another cell phone company in Liberia that could not afford that pricing. They had to go. Novaphone. The predatory pricing, they were selling products lower than they were expected to make profit.
So was that illegal now, TOYUWA?
No, but predatory pricing is illegal according to telecommunications laws.
In Liberia?
In the world. International telecom.
Every country has their own.
Yeah, but that's why you got the regulator now. The regulator is supposed to be there to ensure that predatory pricing does not exist. That's why you have the regulator. You're supposed to be the watchdog for the market. You want to make sure the market is clean. So when you look at the history of this whole thing, right, the predatory pricing started. These guys sold the company. They made good money. They left. Orange came. Orange writes Liberia off with a loss, so they could drop the price as low as they want. They got income streams they will not feel it. They could have done that as long as they wanted, and price Lone Star out. What? It was a problem between Ellen and Ure. Ure wrote Ellen a letter directly about this thing. I think when you wrote that letter, probably 2016, you wrote that letter, telling her that this tactic is not good for the sector. It wasn't good for the sector. So now ZA coming in now, trying to regulate the sector and to correct it, instituted floor pricing. When he instituted floor pricing, he instituted an additional surcharge. Now the surcharge is probably 0.00008, less than a basis point. If you understand what I'm talking about, right? Even less than a basis point. But basis point is money, so we understand that. But even less than a basis point. They increased it by like 50 cents to $1. Does that make
sense? You gotta calculate all of what will come into the final pricing. So besides the surcharge, besides the original cost, you also have
the tax that you owe and you haven't paid, and you want to
you have GST, you have other additional costs.
Yeah, but the taxes, remember now, they evading taxes also. They send up the money they owe Liberia is probably 10% of what they pay in taxes in Ivory Coast. Probably 10% of that. They got kicked out of multiple countries because of tax evasion. They have a history. These guys have a history. So now they're trying to use it as a political tool because they understand that our economy is strapped, it's volatile. So they're trying to use it as a political. I see some political actors in this. Believe me, money has politics has money.
Steve, let us talk about the taxes owed. Okay, you, for example, made $104 million, and you're supposed to pay the government $22 million.
You're the tax man.
You refused to pay the government, and you went to court. You went to court and lost. Now, why don't you think you're supposed to pay that money? Now, for Orange, belongs to the French from the Ivory Coast. MTN belongs to South Africa.
But
If you are refusing to pay taxes,
Ashford, you asking me the question. You asking me the question as if to say I'm representing here the self.
No, I think no. I think you're asking the question for your professional.
No matter what it is, in this case,
you're a tax dude.
But let me just say this, TOYUWA. Let me land on this point, and then maybe we can all be on the same page.
Okay, go ahead.
In any case, I want to see government collecting her legitimate taxes. I believe that in order for government to carry out most of its capital investment and be able to fund some of its recurring expenditure, is to be able to collect adequate taxes. I don't disagree to that point. I don't disagree. What I'm saying, and this is why, when I made the point that when you work in tax administration, you have to take into consideration the entire 9 yards. The politics, the economics, the social aspect, and just everything along it's a whole mix, right? So you have to look at the politics, you have to look at the economics, you have to look at the social aspect. So so businesses, and that's conventional practices. Businesses will always want to operate or to negotiate from a position of strength, because Orange is fully aware that the government is cash-strapped. Everybody, and we all know that the limited taxes the government collecting cannot fund its activity. The government is struggling. So the company now, the position she finds herself in is it has put government in a precarious situation. For instance, the recent increase in the data and voice call, you saw the tension it created in the country, right? You saw the political tension it created in the country, because, and that's how most of these multinational companies will operate. You talk about the French and you talk about Total, you talk about these big multinational. That's how they operate. They come into the country, they use their bargaining from a position of strength and be able to make their way. I was part of government when we had the same situation with Lone Star Cell. Lone Star Cell, they were owing government taxes, and we had to take them to the Board of Tax Appeal to make a determination as to how much taxes they actually owe the government, and be able to follow up. So what I'm saying, and let me just say this, I have not come on this show here to discuss as a representative of the cell phone company. No, I came here strictly to look at the underlying business implication and how it affects government bottom line, and what government can do in order to mitigate this situation so that it doesn't degenerate into something more messy than it already is.
Okay. TOYUWA, what does Liberia get? Orange is from the Ivory Coast. MTN is from South Africa. Now, if they are not in the position to pay their fair share of taxes, and just by listening to my brother, I think both Orange and MTN are working as a coalition or something.
I think there is a collusion going on. It's a collusion where people in the same space collude to set price, which is illegal in America. I don't know, the antitrust laws and all of that. So collusion, you can't get together and set pricing. Okay. But like I said earlier about history, right?
Where does that stand?
Pardon me?
In terms of paying the fair taxes.
Yeah, in the capital system, companies that collude usually is illegal in most countries. I don't know the laws in Liberia for collusion. But Stephen, I want to give you another throwback into history. LTA in our telecommunications history, please. I've been in that space.
Yeah, I know. That's why.
From afar, right? Way far away, but I've been involved in, because I've loved it and I do it here. So I like to find out what's going on. when Weeks were the LTA chair, they were looking for the government needed revenue. And we know now that the GSM providers had a cash cow. So they increased the cost of phone calls. That's when international calls became very expensive. Remember that?
I do.
Okay, so when we call it from here, it's very expensive. It was cheaper for them to call us. But all that income stream, it went away with technology. When people started using data to make calls now. So that other revenue that Lone Star, that LTA were banking on as a regular portion to the budget were not forthcoming. So where you get the money from? Think about it. So as a not only get from the business because you've been in government, get into the regulatory part. Where we understand Trump killed all the regulations because business don't like regulators. They don't. Regulations cost money. It's added cost, like you said. These guys, the thing that got me upset is these guys trying to bully the Liberian government. Exactly what you said, you guys come from different countries, they're in a position of power, they understand you got fragile democracy, they understand that communication is a political product right now, so it's a big deal. So they say, okay, we'll squeeze you. They don't want to negotiate. And if you look at the floor pricing and what the additional surcharge, the increase is still more than 50%. The increase is not even, somebody crunched the numbers for me, but I'm not privy to provide all that information here. But so we have set in place where we can monitor their income stream, their calls, we monitor them also. They're monitoring tools that the government uses, the regulatory body uses to monitor the GSM so they can get a fair share. And according to what we have as a government, they owe us 16.5 million in taxes, forget about surcharge and whatever. And that's why they don't want to pay. So if they don't want to pay, they're doing exactly what you say. They're trying to bully us. That's why I expect the government not to let them get away with this.
Because TOYUWA, you have to, and that's why, TOYUWA, that's why when I spoke earlier, I talked about the fundamental question that tax administrator will struggle to answer is the question of do you persuade or do you pursue? So, and the reason I made that point was, and you agree with me on it that we have a fragile economy, right? As if we were not already
the whole country, everything.
As if we were not already in the basement. Then to compound that, we already have the issue of COVID-19 that has affected not just our economy but also the global supply chain, which has a direct ripple effect on our revenue stream, whether it's international trade or domestic revenue through goods and service, taxes. So we see that happening now. And mind you, these companies are aware of all of what's obtaining in the country, and so they are now operating from a position of strength because they know if the government will pursue them to the extent where they will now be ready to wrap up, just pack their bag and leave. It creates a kind of revolt internally. It makes the government unpopular. People now start to look at the government as not being in their interest, but rather creating avenues so that they could strangulate them, and so it becomes a whole big issue. So do you now still pursue them, or do you persuade them? And I tell people in tax administration you have to be flexible. You have to be flexible because for you to collect, like for instance, property taxes in Liberia, right? If you want to be real, if you want to be very conservative to collect property taxes, for instance, if you went to the interior, you have a case where a farmer, a guy, he lives there, he has 500 acres of land. Land is a property, right? You should pay taxes on it, right? But he has zero revenue stream, but he has 500 acres of land. Do you go there and tax him to be able to collect revenue from and taxes from him on property?
That's not a good analogy because farmland got a different tax rate in Liberia.
No, I'm just saying you might have this farmland, but he's not farming. He just have this big land sitting and got one potato green garden there. He's not making profit on the land, and that's the case across the country. You see people with 500 acres of land, they don't have nothing planted there. They just have this one mud hut that they build there, and when you go there, they say, well, that my land all year going all the way beyond this. For me, in real terms, they should be paying tax.
No.
We're not there yet.
Now, I tell you what, according to Steve, the cell phone companies are coming from the position of strength. Now, is the government being bold here? Because I'm told LTA said they all found out the way everybody else found out about the increase in terms of the data.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, when the company decided to go to court, right? They thought that, and that was their argument, that any additional cost on our already existing cost will mean that the cost of voice call and data will go up. That was the argument, right? They went to court. First thing they wanted to establish was whether this was just additional taxes or it was a additional cost, right?
No, that was not. They went to court and said that not to determine. They said that they said that the legislature was close with levying new taxes.
Yeah, because that's the point. They said the legislature would do that, right?
Now, there was no error
then
there.
They said, listen, then the court ruled that it was not an additional tax, but rather it was an additional cost.
Fee or fee for the layman and listening.
For the cost, right? So what the guys did, they added that money, that cost, they put it on the already existing cost and came up with a total cost. In that total cost, it captures the taxes, the additional cost, and plus the already established cost. So all of that,
okay, but then the regulator
one cost trickles down now to you and myself, who are the consumer.
No, but the regulator accepting and say your price is too high.
But then the regulator back and say
the regulator right?
And they put the regulator back. You gotta prove to me that we disagree.
You gotta prove to me why this is the only way you can make a profit. Show me the numbers that will
and that's why you see. That's why you see from the regulator's standpoint. That's why most regulators must take into consideration all of the existing variables that will make the final determination. You have to look at the existing economic condition in the country. You have to look at, because while it's true that government wants to collect more taxes, but at the same time, you have a situation where the majority of our people don't have jobs. One of the biggest outlets for taxes is income. It's income tax. How many of our people actually have employable income that are paying taxes? So since we don't have that going, most of the time we in tax administration will have to push these companies, these businesses to the extent where we're able to collect. Now, so when we do that, what happens is they now transfer that burden to the ordinary consumer. And in the case of Liberia, ASHFORD and TOYUWA, in the case of Liberia, you have a situation where the majority of your people are, unemployed. Even those who are employed are underemployed. People cannot fend for themselves, and people use these internet data and other things to raise.
But TOYUWA and Steve, who's going to take the blame this time? Because the common man, how do you explain this to the common man who?
At the end of the day, the government will always take the blame because the people want. You see, and that's the difficult part. Everybody would think that it will be difficult for you to actually explain to the ordinary man that the company is doing it. It's easier to tell anybody in Liberia that the government doing it. It's the easiest thing to do, and that's why the government. One of my disappointment in the government was they The level of communication out there in the public should not be to react. You don't wait for it to happen before you come now to clarify and start doing things. You know, you have to.
I blame the PR
you have to act.
team from LTA.
The company announced through a communication that they were going to increase data and voice call by a certain percentage on October 5th. You know, if I'm not mistaken, right? That information, that circular was sent across the country. Everybody were aware. The regulator did not act, waited for the company to institute it. The company collected money from people. People bought their data. People bought their voice call. The company took money from them. Before the government issued a press release saying they gave them 72 hours to revert to status quo ante. Now, even when they did, even when they reverted to status quo ante, the government still had to come back again and say, no, you know what happened? You were profiteering. We asked that you gave people their money back. You know, you think
the government were wrong for that?
No,
the government will get some for that.
But these were things that the government should have put in place long when the company announced that they were going to increase prices. The government should have interfered right there. We can't do this, and we need to look at what are the prices you're about to institute so that we can be able to make a determination whether it's not profiteering or not. So, don't wait for the citizens to fall victim of what you term profiteering, and then you come back and say, now how do you even monitor the company to determine how many persons money they took and how they will give it back and whether those people will collect their money back? How do you
got access to their records?
So why you go to court and
you have access to the records.
So if I bought $5 scratch card and they took $3 for me, how do you know that they gave me my $3 back?
Everything is done electronically. You will check.
So why you go to court and the court finds out that LTA was not in error in having you pay these taxes, and in this case they say you have no kids, so now you are obligated to the government in terms of the taxes. You refuse to pay the taxes, and according to Steve, there were additional taxes added on the already additional costs added on the already taxes owed. So why are more?
No. Additional costs added on
the current
with that an error or something? Or they just wanted to?
Okay, ASHFORD, this is what's been happening. When they raised the price, LTA way back then raised the price for international calls. That income stream was projected for future budgets. We get at a minimum this amount from LTA. That whole income stream died down with technology. People were not calling Liberia from here and buying phone cards anymore. People are using WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever you can. But people are using data to call. That means, so now LTA had to be creative and find ways to increase their revenue because they had an obligation to the government. So they increased the tariffs on the calls and on the data. Those tariffs on the calls and the data, we expect the business to pass that on to the consumer.
Exactly.
That's normal. But at the level it was passed on, it's the problem.
So you see, that's why I said the government have to be proactive. Proactive in a sense where the government should have engaged those companies long before those new prices.
Until they went to court behind this.
I mean, even after the court rule, right? The company had announced that they were going to increase prices by a certain amount beginning a certain date, right? The government did not say anything. The company went ahead. And the company.
I don't think the government.
Listen, the company's reliance was on an order from the LTA. So the company in that release that was widely published had indicated that based on an order number blah 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 from the LTA, we are now beginning to roll out our new price scheme beginning the 5th of October. They said,
and they had or according to what I understood, right?
So that was where the government had to be proactive. Engage them and say, you know what happened? We need to review your
Part of the
price
process, they were supposed to submit their price scheme.
You know, yeah, and that's why we thought the government would have been proactive to say, submit to us
But
your
they
new
never
price scheme.
submitted.
Let's see your new price scheme so that we can be able to make a determination that, you know, it meets industrial standard based on the price regulation we have.
And that's what the whole problem is.
You know, and because the government did not do that, the company went ahead and started pricing people down.
You can't say the government didn't do that. You can't say the government didn't do that.
But if they did that, then the company would not have gone ahead to say they're increasing
How
the
you
volume
know?
that I call.
The big company refused to pay taxes after they told them to.
TOYUWA, I don't speak for the company, right? I don't speak for the company. So my point to you is when you have a proactive government, right? You have to be sure that you avoid these kinds of things, because at the end of the day, those that are affected are the very people you represent. So
okay, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking up time of your busy schedule. We've gone almost an hour now, and I think it is time that we take our plea to the audience after the first segment. The next thing we're going to talk about is to visit the previous business history of some of these companies from other countries in terms of owning up to their own responsibility. Let us go to the telephone line. Again, the number to call is 248-979-1718. Hello, Dwalo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, man, Mr. Garley. How you doing?
Welcome.
Mr. Harris, this is African Child from CCL. How you doing, brother?
My brother, how you doing?
Not too bad. Now, here's my thing, though. I know a little bit about this issue. I worked in the telecommunication industry for about 4 years as a senior pricing analyst, so I know how some of these things work. My question to you is, it seems like every time the government is trying to squeeze milk out of rock, we have a international cable that's currently in Liberia. Why isn't the government spending the tax base, but it only focuses on getting more money from the current MTN companies that are within the country? You cannot get any more money than you can personally get. One thing we always did was we have a weekly meeting and ways to find new revenue source for the company. Now, I don't hear people talking about that. You're only focusing on just getting
existing revenue sources and straining them.
African Child, let me give you some information. I think
okay.
LT is the regulator and telecom not the telco the provider. The telco now has just gotten a GSM license. They're going to go into the data space. This is something they should have done a long time, but they caught up. So I must give them credit for that. And exactly your point. Come on, you got the fiber optic. You need to maximize it. You need to
exactly.
What's that company in Nima? The mining company. The mining company is hauling data from Idaho. We should be sending that thing straight to straight up to them from Paso along the railroad line. It's already there. You can just run the cable straight up the line. But creative thinking we need.
I don't have the detail, Mr. Harris, concerning the penetration of the telecommunication industry in Liberia. I don't know that detail. You may know that detail. But there are a whole lot of places where we can get more revenue.
On top revenue areas, yeah.
Yeah, but you see, MTA as a regulator is not
storms daily to expand the operations in the country and not just focusing getting more money for these people that are buying $2, $3 phone cards. Now, Liberians speak English. So we have a massive base to have these going from call centers. Look, 2 years ago, I was part of a team that set up a call center in Calcutta, India. And these people are making so much money and their English is not even good. When Liberia has an opportunity to expand on this. So I believe the government has additional source of revenue, but they're not utilizing it. My suggestion is set up a think tank and see how we can put this stuff together and come up to a force. Listen, this is how the government can generate more money. We can possibly double or possibly triple the revenue source right now. The telecommunication industry is bringing to Liberia if they just use the fiber cable.
Thank you, Dwalo.
The person running to Liberia and doing nothing. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you, Dwalo. We have 0355. Tell us the name, please. 0355. Please tell us your name.
Yeah, I saw the Giant Garland. Yeah, this is Ralph.
Yeah, you live on the radio. Go ahead and make your point. Please do not listen to the receiver. Go ahead and ask your
question.
1 second. Okay. I'm okay now, right?
Go ahead and make your point. You live.
Yeah, okay. Ashford, because, big brother, I know you are so sophisticated because at the time when I started knowing you at the age of like 2022, and when I started knowing you, the Ashford the Giant Garlic. And now you know me. Everything. But let me tell you something. You see the telecommunication in the country? The God or cook only. When you hear government say the system, we have to fix the system. Go back to Turbo. Let us build our country. Let us integrate ourselves with the people, the common people. Now when we teach them these things, they will understand how to do these things. The people will come back to let's come back to our family something. Do you know that when the first day the people brought that thing at the back of the barracks? Anything. Do you know that the post of the cable is call it that's how it
They were sending it for Ali.
And Kappa.
The people have to come back and find the government. The government have to go back to the partner. They say we don't have the money. That's the truth. We don't have the money. And then they send 5 of them to go and sell fiber cable, but telecommunication. But Lone Star received Liberians to go and sell it 110 Liberians. Do you know how many Liberians want to go do that sell it? Only 5. The rest of the MTN sold them. Who did that? Sending that Yuri, a people. We don't love ourselves. We don't love the country. But because of money, now things that we knew and we saw it, and when you go through these things, then it's very hard. When you go, you put pay and black and white on paper. Because of money, you will destroy the country. For the second today to go to get those lessons, it takes money, but it cannot come out of things there. You can pay the money, or the government destroy the wall. They do this, so government and government, but they can keep quiet. Because you know why? The other country you see right there, they stand back when they didn't tell you, say, go and rob your country. Go and do this. This America will live in this America. You can never do that. No country in America can tell you, a company can dictate with the telecommunication in America.
Thank you.
Who are you?
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, Mr. Garland.
Thank you. Now, I think I heard you first, told you when you said Luteco went and got her license to operate as a mobile phone company, and then he just alluded to that. But I'm told that this license clause has always been there, and it is never Luteco whether or not they want to go into the business, but they don't have to go to get additional license if they want to operate a phone company. What do you know?
No, okay. And that was one of the areas of the past government also in the technology space. Great guys. I knew the leadership there. I'm not going to put my boys on blast, but we told them that was the wrong move. The telco went in and started CDMA, which is a completely different technology to GSM. So CDMA is basically like Sprint. Sprint didn't have no SIM cards. You buy a Sprint phone, it will only work with Sprint. That's CDMA technology. CDMA, it was the license that the telco had. GSM was a brand new license that did not go in that space. So for them to enter that space, they had to be a licensed provider. That's why they had to get the license. They have a license for CDMA, which is crap. I mean, nobody else uses that type of technology except us here. The rest of the world uses GSM. So I don't know why we invested all that technology money into CDMA. You know, but that's Liberia Telecom history again for you, Johnson. You know, so I think the missteps happening on my party's watch. And these are the missteps that are being corrected also, which one, the predatory pricing, the LTA has all my respect for making sure that they clean up the sector. Make the sector competitive so other providers can come into space. Our second issue, my second thing is to create multiple income streams. So instead of the telco just being a two-black bulldog, get in the GSM space. If other people making money there, we can make the same money too. But get in the space with a certain, like if they get in that space, I want them to get to provide data. Data for businesses, high-speed internet, connectivity to companies, to offices. Get in it to be a data provider. Like most of the cable companies in America right now, they're carrying cable, but they're not making money from cable. They're making money for the internet service.
Mm-hmm. Now you got the LTA or two-black bulldog. How do they regulate this stuff? Because if it
not regulated,
how do we put this under control? Because as it is now, people are suffering. The prices of data are high, and we seem to be going nowhere. You know,
well, I'm hearing. I listened to a show where I heard my sister, the communications director for LTA, on a show, and she said by Friday we will be hearing something. So there were in negotiations today. Like I told you, I was waiting for some information that I wanted to break on this show, but that information wasn't full time because negotiations are still on the way. That's too much money for us to walk away from, and they're not going to bully us. They're bullying us because they raised the price, and technically, like what Johnson said, y'all said floor price, but he said ceiling price. So, you know, so that was a good point you raised. I never thought about it that way, but that's the businessman thinking.
So you didn't give them a cap. You just let them.
You gotta cap them. So you can cap them, so you can do the math and say how much it costs you to generate.
All of the costs associated with what we're saying, your price should not exceed this much.
Yes.
So you put them in the
So y'all can compete in that space.
Y'all can compete from 0 to this number, but nobody can go above.
So I would say, okay, I'll take less profit than me. I will sell it for 30 cents. Where 50 cents are the buy. He's still selling it for 50 cents.
A fast nickel is better than a slow dime. I could sell my cost by 5 cents. The other man can say, well, I can.
I'm still making a profit. I'm still making a profit.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys. The telephone number to call, just in case you want the phone part of the discussion, is 248-979-1718. I believe we'll have a call on the line, and the last 4 digits of your number, 7149. Please tell us your name.
Hey, my name is Sano. How you guys doing?
Sano, welcome to the show. You're live on the radio. Go ahead, make your point.
Is that to take advantage of the people there because it's a third world country. That's the only country in the world that I went to that to call somebody sitting right near you, you got to use extra money. For example, if you on Lone Star and I am on Orange, it's difficult to call somebody sitting right near you on the Orange line if I got a Lone Star, and It's easy to call 10,000 miles away in America. I went to Accra, Ghana. You can call any line. You don't have to ask whether you're on MTM or on Glow. You can call any line once you got a phone. So my concern here is why the cell phone company or the government cannot regulate, say, hey, cell phone company need to go in the system, put Lone Star code and press enable, for Lone Star do the same thing and press enable, that the people can call each other down there free. It don't have to be that you have to get a special promotion. I was in Liberia last year from Robertsfield to EWA Junction. I used $30 just to make call because I was so confused with the promotion and all of that. I used $30 just local call. And we all understand that calls are cheap around the world now. I remember back in the days, we used to use night and weekend in America. But now calls are very cheap. Call Nigeria is very cheap from America. Call Ghana. Call Kenya. But I think that the cell phone company are exploiting, or the government are exploiting somebody doing something that is so expensive for calls over there. That's my point. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Sandro, that's a very valid and legitimate.
Steve, just before you come in, what do you think needs to be done in terms of alleviating the problems of folks not being able to afford the data or the cell phone bill? I know MTN came in just when some of us left the country, and scratch card was about $65.
Yeah, I remember. SIM card.
SIM card was $65. I don't know who idea it was that a second company came in. Now, the Liberian man thinks that when you give them promotion, that's entitlement. They want to keep it. Like the 3-day free call. They think they are entitled for life, you know? In other serious countries, for example, T-Mobile will tell you, say, you know what, this is a 6 months promotion.
Yeah. But the regulator also said
that forever. I mean, the more the merrier. We have Orange and MTN. Why don't we bring several other companies? The next thing you know, the affordability part will come in. Steve?
But yeah, I think actually you have to also take into consideration the economic strength of the country. You know, and how much more can you carry out before your company now goes underwater is the fundamental question that most of these cell phone company will start to answer. Because and even if you open the market and say, well, a number of companies can come, and now it's Liberia has a number of challenges that unlike other countries. First thing is, in terms of population, Liberia is a very small country. We have about 5 million thereabout people, and so we don't have a huge market. Not like, for example, country like Nigeria. In Nigeria, you have huge markets. Nigeria population is in the hundreds of millions, so you have a huge market. So multiple companies can come to that kind of economy, and then also you have the economy is strong. Relatively speaking, compared to Liberia. So people purchasing power in those countries are far greater than ours, right? So even if 50 companies come to Liberia, they're still going to be competing with the same number of customers. So at the end of the day, what will end up happening is the same thing that TOYUWA talk about will be predatory pricing, because for one company to make more money than the other, they will have to reduce the price to the level where it will affect, it affects the bottom line of the other company, so that people will come. Now, so what will happen in that instance will be company with stronger muscles in terms of funding. They will eventually drive to other company. It happened with the case with Communion. Communion had entered the market and was competing against two giants that have already established a strong market space, and Communion wanted to compete, Vodafone, Novaphone, as we call it. So they were fighting against Lone Star that had already, built for itself a strong connection with the community. And then second came with this big promotion, 3-day free call, better internet, better data, and other things. And now for Novaphone came, there was a small window for the company. Which area do you focus? How much more could you have gone in order for you to compete with a company like Orange that can easily write off Liberia, since in terms of its major revenue stream is not counting on Liberia as some of the the big power.
Now the tax write-off.
I told you what, you are the man. 29, 30 plus years in this business. How do we solve this problem for the common man to have access to data? Because we all sport now. We can't do
this is not a technology thing. This is a political thing.
When you say political, what do you mean? Explain further, please.
Well, the arbitrary is not so-called. It's the arbitrary increase in pricing is a political move by the GSM companies. There are some people in some corners are looking at some members of the board of GSM companies are part of this action. When I say political, you can tell because it's a direct disrespect to the government of Liberia. They are trying to tell you straight up and trying to bully the government. They're like, this is a tinderbox issue. This can blow up in your face. I'm going to play with it and maximize. I don't care. I just pull out. If all my equipment's going up, bro, I write it off as a loss. When I go to France, when I do my taxes, I lost all my equipment, bro, I won't pay taxes on it. I mean, that's what these guys do. The thing is, the government is using some strong arm tactics also internationally. Orange in France is also involved in these negotiations, along with some people that represent the government in France. So this is a political issue. These prices should have been raised. Yes.
Thank you.
According to the numbers, they should have been raised. So the level they raised it is the problem.
So TOYUWA, that's why the government needed to be proactive, and that's my point.
Yes,
thank you. Hold on 1 minute, sir. Hold on 1 minute, please. Let's go back to the telephone line. We have 1629. Please tell us your name.
My name is Louis.
I am speaking to the telephone number ending in 1629.
Okay, 1629. My name is Anthony Williams, and I call from
Mr. Williams, please go ahead and make your point. You live on the radio.
All right, thank you for the show. So, first I want to
please be a little bit audible. Speak a little bit louder, please.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Okay, go ahead, make your point. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. First I want to make it is for the GSM company that the print mill or the pioneer of GSM company in Liberia was established through a political means, and that will continue to affect the market globally, even in America. The fight right now on communication, it is a political product. You can't dispute that. Everybody trying to control data. Everybody trying to control information, and so the high body of Lone Star Cell for inception, those were used as political tools. And that's why you continue to be that way, because you want to use telecommunication not only as a merchandise, but also as a political tool. And one of the ways in which government, I think, like the telco infiltrating the market to obtain license and operate, that will be one of the only way out to help the Liberian population. But other than that, especially so when you have people who are actively involved with the politics of the day, and they are investors, they are shareholders in telecommunication. Telecommunication globally is a political tool right now. Everybody, we are in the technological age. Everybody's trying to control data. Everybody's trying to control information. So as long as we have key or political actors involved in our investment, you always have this kind of trouble that we have. People always play politics with it just to control the mass of the people. And that's why at the end of the day, everything falls on the consumer, which is the Liberian people who cannot even afford. So if government wants to solve some of these problems, they need to do exactly what they already started doing, even though it did that. But the telco need to infiltrate the market and do it in a way that communication will be affordable and accessible for the public.
Steve, do you agree telecommunications is used now as a political tool?
It is.
Well, I think it's been politicized, but for it to, it's been politicized, and I think and that's where it becomes difficult to draw a clear line of demarcation, especially in third world countries, between what is a merchandise and what is a political commodity. For instance, rice as a staple should be a merchandise, but in Liberia it is a political commodity. In Liberia there are regulations, in fact, that a certain number of rice cannot cross the border to leave Liberia. So it tells you the extent to which, when you have a volatile country, how much more everything becomes political. And so I wouldn't be surprised that people think telecommunication is a political tool. But the point I'd like to make is that businesses will capitalize on the existing condition within the country to want to make bargains. So they now realize that the government is cash strapped. The economy is terribly bad. People can have food, and so the company want to use that as an advantage to negotiate. And so it boils down to my original point about the government now, and I see, at least according to TOYUWA, that the government and the company now are in conversation.
Because first of all,
and that conversation should have happened long before.
It's been happening. It's been happening, but
so,
they colluded.
So for us to reach a point where people, our people are victimized by this, then the government now start the conversation. It means that the government has not been proactive, and so that's why we call on them to be very proactive. Engage the company, find a solution, because at the end of the day, it is us, the citizens, that are going to bear the greater responsibility of these increment.
Okay, let us go back to the telephone line. We have Dr. Rockefeller Cooper on the line from. Hello.
Calling
radio. Okay. So you are.
You get it, man. Too much time.
Yeah, he made a man run away from the time.
They know.
Call it, man, full credential, the man say,
on a job, I don't call them. They know 8 o'clock. Between 8 and 10, I supposed to be waiting. Then you call me. I really you want to take part in the conversation. So
exactly.
Go ahead. So you are.
Yeah, but check this, right? So collusion. This is a classic case of collusion. Both companies raise their prices exactly the same amount of money. Collusion is a criminal offense under our laws. So these guys are refusing to pay taxes, breaking our laws, and stiffing our people with an illegal arbitrary increase that the regulators have slapped their hand and told them to go back to where it came from and put their money back. And for me, but Johnson, collusion. Now, you've been in the business space in Liberia and in the tax space, basically. But collusion is a criminal offense or is a punishable offense? I'm asking you. Do you know?
Well, yeah, it is. But I mean, it has
to be. Is it criminal or punishable in terms of not criminal?
It should be, but it has to be determined. And this is
where I think come on, dude.
No, but it has to be determined. It has to be determined. And this is why, even if you read the back and forth between the government and the MNOs, you see that they're not even agreeing to the fact that the government accusation of them wanting to profiteer from the stuff. They're saying no. They're saying, well, if you look at our price structure, it was fundamentally based on the calculation of all of the costs, our costs, additional costs, including taxes. And that's how we're able to make a determination.
Our calculations say they lie.
Okay, gentlemen.
Say they lie.
Come again?
Our calculations say they lie.
So yeah, and that's why the government then need to sit down and then they do the math.
Okay, gentlemen, let's do this. Again, once again, the telephone number to call is 248-979-1718. Why people think, or most people think Liberia is like a dumb site. You pay taxes when you go to other countries. You come to Liberia and you feel that the government does not deserve to get their fair share in terms of taxes. Take for example, TOYUWA alluded to that earlier, that some of these companies uh, got kicked out of several other countries. I'll give you an example. That Orange left for Niger because
Taxes.
she refused to pay her. When you come to Liberia, you feel that you can make money, take the money to Ivory Coast or France, or take the money to South Africa, and Liberia doesn't get anything.
But Astro, how many countries across the globe? How many countries across the globe do we have Orange? Let me make that determination, so that we don't emphasize, we don't make a point based on outlier. You know that it happened in Niger. It means that. So how many other countries in Africa, for example, do we have Orange? And how many of those countries that Orange have left because of
taxes? My research as it relates to taxes in Niger.
No, I mean, yeah, Niger is an outlier. Let's look at
Niger
was one other African countries outside Niger.
Niger was one of the places that I looked at, right? That she left because, or she got kicked out because of a refusal to pay taxes.
No, but you see, actually, the point I'm trying to make here is, I do not know the facts surrounding Orange's activity in Niger, right? But what I like to do as a man, as a guy who follow big data, is when you're making an effective comment to say that Orange is noted for evading taxes, then we should be able to provide, the statistical facts to say Orange is in 54 countries in Africa, but out of that 54, Orange they kicked out of 28 of them. Then we can be able to reasonably say, yeah, I think it now is a pattern. But we cannot use an isolated case in Niger as the basis to make a determination that the company is tax evasive. We need, it will not be a good basis to draw a conclusion. Now, the point I like to make here is naturally human being globally. It's not just in Liberia, but naturally human beings don't want to pay taxes. Globally, even here in America, if we had our own way, we would not pay taxes. But because there are strong laws and because there are mechanisms in terms of accounting architecture in place that will collect the taxes from you even before you collect your own money, you see that tax administration here in the US is far more effective and efficient than Liberia, for example. And then also the laws on the book are rigid. The enforceability aspect of the law, which is a challenge in Liberia, is one of the areas. Now, let me just give you a little history, and I talk about it briefly when I spoke about tax administration in Liberia, including property taxes. The first thing is there are people in Liberia, majority of them, who believe that they shouldn't pay taxes. Ordinary citizens, they don't think they should pay taxes. And I think the basis for this thinking is it can be looked at from several dimensions. First is because government over time, this is not just this administration, but the history of government over the last 173 years, is that they collect money from these people, and the people don't really see their tax dollar at work. And so what they witness is that they see a few handful of government bureaucrats enjoying life while the majority of the people cannot have the basic necessity. And so over time, they develop this attitude that if you pay taxes, it's going to a few persons, government will benefit. The people will not have a benefit, a direct benefit from the money they pay. And this mentality is not just new. It's a pattern. Now, for instance, Ashford, when you play soccer, in Liberia, if you play football, the first thing, if we're selecting two teams, if TOYUWA selected team A and ASHFORD selected team B, if Stephen did not make team A or team B, he was never chosen on both sides. They conclude that Stephen is a government boon. The reason they call me government boon is that now I become free, right? Anybody can play me fire if I insist to play. So that's the mentality. Things that belong to government, people think it's free. So it has a historical pattern over time. The second part of that, which is the most critical part, is the enforcement aspect. the capacity of government to impose this thing through technology. You know, people can, so that before, like for instance, most of the countries in the world they've moved to VAT, value-added taxes. Liberia, we stay on GST, goods and service tax. So what happened is, in the VAT, every point along the value chain, government collects taxes. So if I bought this shoe from TOYUWA and I added another stuff on it to change the design to this design, I must be able to pay taxes because I'm adding value to it. In our case, we don't. So the first person who brings the goods in the country pays the taxes. You know, that person takes that goods, he sells it to somebody, that person adds value on it. We'll not be able. First thing, we don't have the capacity. The second thing is that we don't have the accounting architecture in place that will be able. Now, this is why, for this to happen, a number of things will have to be put in place.
For what to happen?
For you to run an effective tax administration in Liberia, where you are able to collect your full potential.
So we find that challenging to our Africa.
Hold on.
Yeah, but I like to focus on Liberia.
Steve, Moneyball, welcome. Maybe you just come in. Listen, so both Orange and MTN, they made $104 million. You owe the Liberian government $22 million. Okay? And you go to court and say you're not supposed to.
$104 million between what period?
The records are there.
Yeah, I need to get. Actually, I hope you don't see me here as a spokesman for Orange.
I'm not saying no. Some of the folks who are saying we have to get it. Okay? You pay $4 million, you're supposed to pay $22 million.
Anybody who makes money in Liberia, you should pay tax.
And then in this case, they don't want to pay the taxes. And you are saying we're making up stuff? TOYUWA.
Who said we're making up stuff?
That's a young man called Morning Kishan.
Well, it's his opinion, but I know MTN, as far as January 2016, was owing $166 million in taxes to Cameroon. They were in problem for that money. I don't know what happened to that, but they were in court and all that kind of stuff because it's there. The data's there. Also with Niger, as ASHFORD put it. So we can, if you don't call 2 a pattern when it comes to 3, then I wonder how your patterns go. Maybe you expect more.
But TOYUWA, you've been a guy involved with telecommunication. I would also conclude that you're also being involved with statistical data. You cannot use an isolated case, like for example in Niger, as the basis for your argument, because first thing we want to.
I just gave you Cameroon also.
No, but Cameroon, you're talking 2 different companies. You're talking MTN in Cameroon. You're talking Orange in Niger. So we have 54 countries in Africa. How many of the 54 countries do we have Orange or MTN in? Now, when we know that, how many of those numbers that those companies evaded taxes, then we can be able to conclude that the company has a history.
And the article I'm reading says Orange and MTN owe Cameroon nearly 100.
So how many countries in Africa do we have Orange and or MTN?
I don't know that stat,
so
but I know
that based on the Cameroon scenario, has a history.
You can get, but past history also counts. When you see, you're looking at it.
You can look at the you can look at one outlier and use it as a.
Well, how you say it's an outlier one time? The second time, is it an outlier to Niger?
But listen, it's still an outlier based on how many countries they're in. So if we know that they're in 50 countries. And only 2 cases of that, and the other 48 countries have non-issue, we cannot say the company has.
But you gotta look at the political climate of all these countries as part, because you see, when you're looking at the numbers, you gotta look at the other numbers also.
And
in whatever volatile.
And
which countries were in political strife? Which countries were in high economic downturn?
Speaking about the number, from September of 2019 to August of 2020, Orange, 72,250, 800. And MTN, 32,000.
We're talking millions.
32 million.
72.
It'll be millions.
72 million.
That's how much they made.
250,800.
Yeah.
And 32,550,813.
You pay tax for that money.
Now, total revenue 104,801,81.
That's why we reported, right? And how much of that money government was supposed to collect in taxes?
Anywhere between 19 and 22 million.
So how much the government was able to collect?
None.
So you see, that's why when I talk about
so the government pay.
So instead of we you see, if we put in place the accounting architecture that will collect these taxes beforehand, we will not have to wait for, let's say, January or December 31st for somebody to walk to the bank and say, I can't pay government taxes.
No, I think the GSM
if we put in place mechanism where it is pay as you go, I don't think we'll have this problem.
Yeah, but I don't think we do that.
Because we keep going in cycles. We keep doing the same thing and think that we're doing it differently. Because if we're waiting for December 31 for Orion to come to government office and say, yeah, there's my check, 150 million, I owe you in taxes, I can't pay. There will always be this.
Do you know you have to come to you to pay your taxes, or do you know what you're supposed to do?
So you have to have in place a system that will be pay as you go.
But do you know? But what about the quarterly?
If we charging you 5 cents on each call, by the time one person make a call, they pay that 5 cents, we collect our money automatically.
I understand the system you're talking about, but I don't think that system is what the regulators have in place. So they have to change certain regulations.
Yeah, you have to be proactive, and that's why I told you. I've always said the government will have to be proactive. You have to be creative. You have to be creative. If you want to collect adequate taxes, you have to be creative. You have to say, you can
do it on a weekly basis, not a daily basis, because the administration on a daily basis will just be.
You wouldn't be worried that Orange didn't pay your money or that MTM didn't pay your money. You've already collected your money.
Yeah, but you gotta be serious. The bottom line here is.
But at the end of the day, what we do, we wait. Government will wait. At the end of the year, the man comes with a check and ready here to the government ready to pay taxes.
But we do that with the oil company, the petrol dealers, all of that. I mean, we've been doing that historically. Now, all the people that, like you, were in tax accounting, are those ideas what they thought about when you were in tax accounting and creating? Because we still have these same issues with the oil company.
You see, tell you what, every company they start with that, they do what they can do for, when we join, we introduce IFMIS. The IFMIS system. That system, the current government still using it. That system provided the basis for which we were able to collect taxes to the extent that revenue jumped by more than 400%.
So we need to go to the next step now.
So you have that already. The next step is let's now move towards value-added tax regime that we can be able to set up strong accounting architecture that will be able to collect taxes as you go.
Okay, so the idea behind that is coming from mobile money. So when mobile money comes in, you can get actual transactions. Then
so
you can
you collect. You don't gotta wait for the year to end.
Yeah. So if you're buying something from this person, you pay if it's a taxable item and you scan your mobile money, the tax will go.
Yes.
The person will collect that tax. The bank will. Collect that money. The bank will send that tax.
Government collect her own. It's like it is this. By the time you go to the store, you pay for something. You swipe your card.
The money
be gone. The store, you waiting for the government right there. You see how much the government collecting taxes. That money is somewhere going straight to government.
Yeah.
You say pay as you go, eh?
Yeah, pay as you go.
So la brush, you be pay as you go country.
Anything you buy, you pay your taxes.
But you gotta have an infrastructure in place.
You gotta have the accounting infrastructure.
And the technology infrastructure also.
Before I left the Ministry of Finance, we started to roll out because Liberia was a part of.
We had the technology at the backbone. We didn't have
technology. Yeah, technology is basis because
we don't have the technology. We got electricity.
And another key area you have to focus on also is for you to be able to migrate a lot of people from the informal business sector into the formal sector so that they can be captured.
And that's what we're hoping mobile money will do.
Yeah, mobile money will be, if people start to transact using mobile money, it will bring a lot of people into the formal sector. Because for instance, if I go on a motorbike, man, if I ride a pimpin from Broad Street to Douala, right, he charges me $500. If I pay him cash, government not collecting anything on that $500.
Well, I send it to him, the 2 cents are that big.
Exactly, but if I went to share my shoes on Broad Street and the guy charged me $50 and I do the transaction through mobile money, government collects.
Yeah.
But if I pay him cash, that's why you see most people don't even think they're supposed to pay tax. Because a lot of people, they're outside of the tax regime. For instance, the market women don't pay taxes. They go to buy the good, they kind of sell it. Anything they sell in the market, they get the money.
The only hope we always had for taxes, and was funny when I talked to somebody who was,
gentlemen, let us talk.
Was NPA, the incoming goods that will pay the tax.
Yeah, for custom revenue, international trade.
And they only know, but that will get what tax on the products. When the people sell the products, we don't get taxes from them.
Yeah, so by the time the man paid that original tax from the beginning, he entered the country. If he sold it to me, I buy it, I go ask somebody, I carry $1, and I'm paying taxes. I sell it.
No more taxes again. Only that tax you pay to the port.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ashford.
Gentlemen, let us talk one at a time. How do we put structure in place? I mean, there are folks who are versed in the area you're talking about, who are Liberians, some of who are in the country, some are out of the country. How do we bring structure so that we can avoid what we're going through now? That'll begin with Steve.
I think the way to do it is for example, a man like TOYUWA should be in Liberia. They're trying to help create the kind of system, and I think and that was one of the areas that the previous administration was able to score big. You know, when they were able to bring in a lot of SMEs, subject matter experts in areas that were able to set the basis. You know, and so to continue with that kind of a V-shaped progress, you have to have in place people with the technical know-how, the skill sets, and the expertise, so that they can be able to drive. And another thing also is for you to be in line with innovation. You know, disruptive technology. You have to realize that the war is evolving, and you have to be in line with the reality of the changing time. You know, how do you put in place the accounting infrastructure that will be able to capture government to effective revenue? How do you also migrate people from the informal sector, that is largely the case in our country, into the formal sector, so that they can be captured under the tax administration? You know, how do you also create employability for people so that government can be now, like for example, in America, 70 to 72% of the revenue the government collects comes from income taxes. So the more people you get to work, the more money government is able to generate. The more money government generates, the government is able to do more for the country. So unless we have a situation where, and it's a two-way street, the responsibility of the people to pay taxes, and then government own responsibility, one, to create the opportunities for the citizenry, create the environment for businesses and people to thrive. But at the same time, people should have the value for their dollar. You know, when I pay my taxes, I should see my taxes at work. We live here in America. As you pay taxes, you just leave your city for like a month or 2 or 3 months, 6 months. You come back, you see your tax dollar at work, whether it's road project, whether it's some capital investment. Because the thing about this thing is it's like a circular flow. As you pay taxes, government able to spend in the economy. As government spends money, that money is able to create job. As that money creates job, we have more people working. As more people get job and start working, government is able to collect more.
Steve, for that to be able to work, people can't see this as let me go get my Friday. You know, they go and you get a little something. The person gave you something under the table. You put it in your pocket. The government doesn't see anything. Something that has been around from time immemorial. Yeah. It's not going to work.
So you have to you have to build responsible citizenship. And one of the things that I don't see, especially in our Liberian system, is the issue of the country is low when it comes to ethics. The country is very low on ethics. A lot of people a lot of people, whether it's in school, high school, in the community, grow up believing that the wrong thing is the right thing. So the people grow up, you know, unless we begin by teaching people those ethical values, ethical standards, and people realizing that they have a fiduciary responsibility to their country, and that collecting bribe or, you know, doing something quite unethical is completely wrong. You know, because what happened, even if there are cases where people want to pay taxes and people started requesting money from them.
Thank you. Like I said, where my friends would say my father tax collector, and he got
some people went to the place to pay taxes, and the tax collector. Look, when I work with the government, there were cases.
Yeah, let us talk. Hold out there, Steve. We have Sam Jackson on the line. Hello, Sam. Welcome to the show.
We got a lot of feedback from Sam.
Gentlemen, great conversation.
Sam, how are you?
Steve, how TOYUWA? How you? Yeah, I TOYUWA. How you guys doing? Excellent, excellent. Look, the thing about they have
Sam, you're coming in broken.
Country. Number one is infrastructure, okay? Infrastructure and social equity. So in order for all these things to work, you have to have electricity.
Yes.
12% of the people in the country have access to the grid. So then the other thing is financial inclusion. Financial inclusion is that people have to have bank accounts. In Liberia, only 7% of adults 18 and over have bank accounts. In Ghana, it's like 50%. But in Kenya, they have something called M-Pesa, which is mobile money. 97% of all transactions on the GDP is conducted by mobile money.
That
So
changed the game.
like that, it makes it easier for you to collect the sales taxes and to do other things like access to finance in terms of loans, because it is the banking system that is the driver of development in any country. You need credits. In America, we do deficit spending because we use our credit cards and the bank interest on our credit card, and the bank lend money for businesses to grow. So that is the fundamental problem, infrastructure. And then you come to guys that TOYUWA will have to be the telecommunications infrastructure for you to have the technical processes to make the economy grow. So thank you very much. And those are the comments I wanted to make.
Thank you, Sam. Excellent input.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. And like I said before, electricity is the backbone to any development, especially this era of human life. Everything is technology based, most things. And like I told you before Sam jumped into this, mobile money is changing the tax regime in Africa. Because we didn't have the infrastructure, we could not collect VAT, value-added tax.
Yeah.
It's always been a challenge, not Liberia, every single African country. Mobile money, say, okay, the Oman selling orange here. I want to buy orange. How much for 50 cents? You jump on your phone, you send her the money. That transaction is recorded. Okay? So somebody is paying some kind of money for that transaction. That transaction is not free.
Yep.
Okay, the bank, even if the person is not paying tax and the bank is charging a fee, the government is getting a percentage of that fee as tax. You understand my thing here? So not everything will be taxed, but every transaction will be taxed. That's where the VAT is. But we changed this whole conversation from the GSM companies to the tax regime, which is the basics of this whole issue. Remember, I said it before when we started this show, the whole basis, these people owe taxes they don't want to pay. Steve, after jumping over the hoops, he came up with a brilliant idea. We need to change the way we collect taxes.
That's it.
After. And that makes sense. I conclude that's what we need to do. And we also need the telco to get into this space. They need to get into this space.
Hold on. And I think it's a good idea that the telco gets into this space. Hold on. We have 4619. Hello, tell us your name.
Hello, my name is Stephen Adams.
You're live on the radio, Mr. Adams.
Thank you very much. Good discussion. I listened to the discussion all evening, and one of the things that your two experts did not touch on was the impact of black taxes in the country.
Come again?
The volume of call coming in and the downward pressure of the black box call into the country on the revenue stream to the government.
I'm not understanding you, sir.
On the
hey, Mr. Adams, would you please speak a little bit louder?
Yeah, I can't understand what he said.
You didn't understand. Can you state what he said before?
Can you repeat what you just said? The panelists did not get what you just said.
Okay, all right. I was interested in their position on black box GSM call within the country and its impact on the revenue stream. Because a lot of the calls going into Liberia now are being not routed directly through the telco systems, where the government will then realize its revenue based on the call volume coming to the country. It's going through these black boxes, and these black boxes are bypassing the government gateway. That's one of my observations.
You know what? I tend to disagree. The volume dropped because
tell you what, please allow him to conclude, and then you can come in. Go ahead, Mr. Adams.
Yeah, that's one of my observations. My second thing is people are not talking about the volume of call in the country and the impact of that volume of call when there's an increase in the prices. As long as we have a reduction in the amount of calls being made, it will also reduce the revenue being generated, and thus the tax revenue that the country is going to get. So the upward pressure on price by the upward cost on price on the cost of a call will reduce the volume of call coming in, and nobody addressing that issue. So
no,
hold on, TOYUWA. You have your time. Hold on, TOYUWA.
I want to address it because he said he missed.
TOYUWA, hold on. Let he land. Adams, are you done?
Yes, I'm done. I'd like for them to address those two.
All right. Thank you.
I initially addressed that when I said that LTA increased the tariffs on inbound calls to the country long ago. And we, the technologists, told them that was the wrong move. We watching the technology trends. We found out, it was clear that communication was going from a PSTN to a data-driven solution. People now use data to call Liberia more than picking up the phone to call a phone number. There's no black box involved. It's the shift in technology. And we did not pivot. So in order to recoup that additional loss, that's what the regulator put that surcharge. Because what was predicted 10 years ago for Liberia, for that sector as a revenue stream, was not even 25%. That stream dried. Nobody, anybody here, tell me the last time you called a phone number in Liberia. You calling WhatsApp, you're using data to call. So then they try to pivot and put the price on data. You understand? Because they find out data is the main solution. People, they were not taxing the people in Liberia. They were taxing us here to make calls. Our cost, the cost was for international calls placed to Liberia. The people in Liberia were not feeling that cost. They did not know about it. So we'll call and say, "But call me back," because it was cheaper for you to get a call from Liberia. Now that dried out. That whole income stream dried out. I can tell the last time I called somebody on the phone. If I'm not using WhatsApp, I'm using some sort of data-driven solution to make a call. PSTN is gone.
And the thing is, thank you, Toyuwa. And the thing is, Steve, people who want to be tax collectors go into the field because you have passion for it and not to get very rich soon, you know. And if you do those things, then you will continue to be corrupt. You know, get
They're role models. They're role models. They're role models. They saw a tax collector would be got the fine.
Let me just, I think also another thing to that is one of the, the system at the time, how people collected revenue exposed a lot of people to the possibility of them engaging in malfeasance, and then also looking at previous people. For instance, there were cases in Liberia where a tax collector, for example, assigned to a border post in, let's say, Logatu, will collect physical cash. They will collect physical cash, and then they will come to Monrovia. They will come to Monrovia on a monthly basis to make deposits. Now, several things were happening. First thing was we did not have the infrastructure in place. For instance, banks in those areas that will allow people to go and pay into government revenue and now just come back to the place and present their tax receipt and be able to process their payment. Or two, you did not have in place the technology to be able to track the extent, to be able to track transaction at the point it happened. I remember when I joined the Bureau of Customs, one of the things we were able to achieve was there's a system called the ASHFORD. I know you're familiar with it. That system is an automated system that allows for importers to be able to catalog their inputs, and then we'll be able to make a determination as to how much money in taxes that particular importer should pay. Now that system works to the point where I'm in Monrovia and being able to log onto that system and be able to look through it and see transaction. And then as banks also started to migrate to the rural county, we were not able to cut off fraud and waste and corruption, but to the extent that we were able to optimize collection, because of this. So it's a whole bowl of spaghetti. It starts with the people involved. It starts with the system involved. It starts with the technology we have in place, and it also, with the effectiveness of the law, so that when people violate.
Thank you. And people choose to be tax collector, you have to pay direct. Then you say you must put system in place. The system cannot get in place. It is that small thing we insult. So I'll take the last caller, and then we'll call this a night. The last 4 digits of your number, 7149. Please tell us your name.
Hey, Garley. This is Darlin, where we're calling from, Massachusetts.
Darlin, please increase the volume a little bit. You live on the radio?
Yeah, my volume is on.
Okay, go ahead. Make your point.
Yeah, so like the two gentlemen, the two guests in the studio are very brilliant people, and I think they make a lot of points tonight. But the issue with Liberia is corruption. It starts with corruption and ends with corruption. There is no way around it. There is no if and then about it. So like the folks at the finance ministry, those are educated people, those are technocrats. They know exactly what to do to bring about the tax collection of people who do business, who are into business and production of goods and services to be able to collect taxes. But they will not do it. It is deliberate attempt at them because they want to be corrupt. So take, for example, if you want to work and set up an automated system that will collect taxes and that you don't have to wait for Urans to go to finance minister at the end of the year to pay tax, people will not get the kind of money that they get to build the kind of houses that they are building in Liberia. So people have their knee on the neck of taxes in Liberia. It is deliberate. It's all about corruption. If you want to work and set up a system where you have an automated system to collect taxes, people will not go to Lebanese business merchants or Indian merchants every Saturday morning to collect money, through the back door. It is a calculated attempt by people that are the finance ministry or LRA to continue this culture of corruption. And the only way this thing can be eradicated, I don't even know how it's going to be done because corruption in Liberia has become a way of life for us.
Thank you.
To the extent that even the gateway is corrupt. The sweeper at the ministry, whatever government agency, the private agency offices, they are corrupt.
Yeah, thank you.
Corruption is the problem. The root cause of
No, but thank you, darling. But on a very serious note, Steve, you know, the tax collector would take the trouble to learn how to speak French because he
I tell you, you know,
the tax collector
You work in that system.
Swahili because from South Africa speaks Swahili, and you will say, you know what, you don't have to go through all the trouble. In fact, don't hire anybody. I will come here and go pay your taxes, and the next thing you know, the corruption will start.
And ASHFORD, let me just say this. You see, in Liberia, we and that's where I tell people in Liberia we try to fight corruption from the, we try to fight corruption from the, yeah, let me just say this point, ASHFORD. In Liberia, we try to fight corruption from the front end. So that is, we wait for corruption to happen and then we want to fight it. In other countries, while they fight corruption from the front end, which is by ensuring that you have effective laws and due process, but they have systems in the back end that will prevent corruption. So, for instance, let's just look at a common example. For instance, the buses here, right? If you board a bus, what happens? You go to a machine, you put your card there, you buy a pass, right?
System, bro.
You enter the bus. You don't have to.
Infrastructure
system. In Liberia, if the car boy were collecting that money directly, right? The car boy collecting, the driver is not taking track of how many human beings offloaded the bus in the period between Broad Street to Oru. The
you know why? You know the number one reason.
Listen,
the car boy is collecting that direct cash.
The car boy owns that too far. The driver you hire. The first 3 hours, get his full money, go back to the house, tell him where to go to the market to cook before you go look for your own money.
Yes. Yeah, so what they do is the taxi driver will take some money trip. He goes to Basel, for example.
Yeah.
So if he's supposed to report $900 or $1,000 to you a day, he wakes up in the morning, he takes a trip to Basel.
Thank you.
So Basel will mean, let's say, around $250 per passenger. He takes 6 persons to go to Basel quick. 6 person he goes and come back quick in Monrovia. So if he didn't making him if he didn't making your 900, so he keeps your 900 down and put gas in the car. The remainder of the day he makes profit.
Yeah, but but you see the reason. One of the reasons, and I always said this, and George Family has been saying this for I don't know how long, because we don't respect data.
Yeah, big data. We're low on data.
We missed the chance when we had the first voter registration. That was the first concise database of Liberians. We should have established a electronic, a identification number for every citizen. That number will be used in any transaction. You get your license, your birth certificate, your high school diploma, your bank account, your voter registration. You tie that into your ID number, your social security number. We have maybe 5 different efforts around setting up electronic identification for our citizenship. About 3 or 4 different efforts. We need one singular effort that will be able to touch the entire government space.
And TOYUWA, just to add to what you're saying, we have 2 second chances now. We have the census that should be coming up, even though the government is beyond the census. That would be a perfect opportunity to be able to collect those kind of data. And the second opportunity we have is the citizen ID. We can use that instead of charging people for citizen ID. We can say, look,
it's going to be free.
Let's make it free. Let's use it as a basis to be able to capture our citizens. Let's make it free. Let everybody get a citizen ID card. Then we assign a numbering system to them. That system will be used by the Ministry of Health, by hospital clinics, to collect all those kind of health data.
And that gives you what? Big data.
Yes, exactly. So as they say now, they say data is the new oil.
Yeah. But man, let me tell you something. If you don't have the singular unit, you can't determine. Say you have 5 million people. You don't know one person. You can't pick one person out of that 5 million by a electronic identification. You got no data. That person goes to the bank. How that's for credit. That person say, okay, dude, I got all these accounts. These my income stream, and I need to pre-finance this project. They'll look at your income stream. You get a credit rating based on your ability to pay because you have a number that multiple sources use. I wonder what the banks in Liberia use for credit rating. Do they run your credit in America?
No, I think they just look. That's why the banks in Liberia request for collateral. So most of the banks they ask for collateral.
The bank in Liberia check your credit by half. Soon
No,
as
they ask for collateral. No bank will just look at you and give you money. Or you bring it
I think he can pay that. I think you're looking good. So then go to you.
No, the banks will look at the bank ask you for collateral. You know,
I think time has with us. I will give you guys 2 minutes.
Maybe you bring something that probably
yeah.
Let me conclude.
Let me just say this point, and that's why even the recent when COVID struck and the government wanted to do the food distribution, that's why the government struggle.
No way.
They didn't have no available data to be able to even track people where they live, how many person live in their house, how many bag of rice they would need. They don't have those statistics.
What
happened was we have money. I go Oro, I collect another 5 bags.
Steve,
I just be moving from
Steve.
We had a system during the war, I heard.
Exactly. We had a self. ASHFORD knows.
We look at our red low ration, our Kododo.
Exactly.
So what happened back?
It was effective, you know. And
what was the system?
Imagine during the war, you had an effective system during the war. We've been, and the census. Look,
and the people are still there behind that system. All you gotta do is throw the people.
The biggest mistake by this current administration, and I told somebody, I said, your biggest challenge, your biggest mistake is for you not to have conducted the census in 2018. Because what that census would have done, even if you were developing your policy around the propo agenda, that census will have teased out.
But Steve, were you just we had the social security numbering system in the past?
Yeah, we used to have citizen ID, and that was a cycle.
I have my Liberian ID. It never had a number that was specific to me.
No, but it has citizen ID, but I don't know whether they have a numbering system assigned to specific.
No. You ain't got no electronic identifier. You know.
I said, but TOYUWA, you like this government. You think that they're ready now to put some type of system in place?
I doubt it.
I've been looking. One of the greatest achievements of the CDC-led government is harmonization.
I strongly disagree to you.
Well, we got your opinion. My opinion is mine.
You don't call that harmonization,
because the harmonization eliminates the famous word in the past regime of budget shortfall. So we eliminated that whole.
We still got budget shortfall.
No. You're saying as a new song. That would have
even your current budget. You have a shortfall.
Because of COVID, we had less revenue.
No, you have shortfall in your current budget. So
Steve, any person that got shortfall.
The government got serious deficit.
Because of COVID, we didn't get the
revenue. Because of COVID. Look, tell you what. Before COVID, government revenue was underperforming to the extent that the government had to recast the budget to bring the number down.
Correct.
So now what happened was when they brought now you cannot. It's like you were asked to listen. You have projected that you will collect 50 million, right? In the middle of the year, you look at your projection. You say, I can collect 50 million. I can collect 25, right? You cut 50 million to 25, and then you collected 26. Then you say, I collected 1 million surplus. That's not surplus. But even if you look at it in the real term, the claims on the
not
budget.
that- is that not a surplus?
Claims
Because
on
when
the
you
budget. Claims
wait
on
a
the
minute.
budget. Listen,
You can't make
the
a
budget year
statement and
ends.
you gonna let
The
you get
budget
away
year
with
ends.
that.
The budget year ends June 31st.
Steve, hold
June
on.
30th, right?
Steve,
The budget
Steve,
year
hold
ends
on.
June 30th.
Steve.
Listen, let me just make this point. The budget year ends June 30th.
Like brain
Meaning that by the 30th of June, the GSC goes to the Ministry of Finance and draws a line on the government expenditure that the year has ended as at June 30th. This is what it is. Now, all claims to the budget, to that particular budget, will have to come in after it will be July, August, all the way to September. So until you finance all of your claims in that period, what you have in at the end of as at June 31st cannot be considered a surplus, because for you to have a surplus, it means it must be your, when you subtract your expenditure, your debt or your liability from your revenue, then your total amount, when it reach that number, then you say I have a surplus. So
Can we have $100 more so we have surplus?
no, it's not still a surplus because you.
What do you mean? You just get mad when you say no?
No, because listen, when you were claiming by June 30th that you had a surplus, it was not less of your liability. You had not subtracted from June 30th your liability.
How you know that?
Because I know I was senior economist for the government. TOYUWA.
So that's how it works. But
So that's why in this case that's what happened, and I know this one.
That's not what happened.
I work as a lead economist for the government.
Steve,
So it was not a surplus. It was not a surplus. In fact, for a government, for Liberia to be for Liberia to run a surplus budget, then it means the country is booming, because surplus will mean that your expenses are less than your revenue, because so
yes, okay, so that was the whole argument of the.
You think I can say all day? I'll call you over.
But that's the whole argument of the harmonization. The harmonization
was a flop. So your harmonization was a flop.
Harmonization
was a flop. The harmonization did not take into consideration the technical.
Okay, you gotta wait for ASHFORD. ASHFORD, yeah, this is your show. Sorry. And ASHFORD, we're having a discussion and we friends. So this is normal. You know, even though the beer now between us or the glass, we're not knocking the glass, but we can still talk virtually. So thank you.
Steve.
Yeah, dude.
Okay. Listen.
ASHFORD, you gotta drink something with us soon now.
I drink something. Yeah. Look, Steve, listen. Tell Amara Conan it's time for him to come on the show. His name was mentioned last night on the show. The former finance minister, all right, development planning. A time for him to come on the show.
Who mentioned who name?
Hey, I ain't gotta tell you who mentioned who name.
Watch the show yesterday's show. You'll find out when it cost me was too much. I had to leave the show.
The former
but I think you should, I don't know. You should. I'll you can reach out to him. I think it was really tough.
Yeah, I need info. He needs to come on the show, and he'll listen, because last night he was watching.
Okay, so I need to run.
Last night when he knew I mentioned, he said, "Oh, they come on Neil." So
I need to run, because since after work I've been in the office. I haven't gone to the
gentlemen. I want to
thank you. Office.
I hope we find time to talk about budget surplus and short-term deficit.
Yeah, but before we go there, first of all, I want
to see Boyman Camara. I want to see Simon 12. Put the 3 guys in the room, and then you talk about the budget surplus.
Okay.
I think those are.
ASHFORD, I gotta go speak. I gotta go. So ASHFORD, before I leave, I just want to thank you for allowing us to have this discussion. I'm wearing this hat because this is the month of October, and I had 2 sisters that are breast cancer survivors, 2 aunts that died from breast cancer, and I have daughters, nieces. Is a DNA thing, is a personal thing to me. And so I decided that I was going to wear a hat on the show to promote awareness to breast cancer. Ladies, if you're listening, please get your mammogram. Thank you.
Thank you, TOYUWA. And actually, to close up, I think it's always a pleasure being on your show. we're open to coming here. You know, every time we have the opportunity to invite us, we will avail ourselves. You know, and thanks for the time. Thanks to Brother TOYUWA. You know, the last time we met at the airport.
You are going, I will coming.
Exactly, yeah. So
yeah. So my man, we're not flying no more. You know.
COVID stopped most of our travels. So, but I mean, you know, it's good to always see you and you know, have a good day. Thanks, Ash.
But Black Hole Ballers coming for you. Remember that. Later, guys.
All right.
ASHFORD, good night.
Soki opesinga ya lolemu wana nakomi nesika nalingaka yo.
Maria Masane.
And folks, I'm afraid that's all the time we'll have to do with you tonight. God willing, we'll be here tomorrow night with Mrs. Wani Cummings Wilson, the lady who alleged that she was sexually harassed by the Foreign Affairs Minister of the Republic of Liberia will be our special guest, along with Nwani, you know, the female advocacy group based here in the US. So it will be our special guest tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be, 6 p.m. in Liberia. So you might just want to plan to listen as they come and plead their case, and the ones you listen to them, So thank you so much. With that said, folks, I just want to say a big thank you to all of you, and to my brothers and sisters in Liberia. I'm going to Liberia soon, and the last time I was in Liberia was in February of last year, 2019, and I'm so excited to go back home. I want to say a big thank you to the producers, the technicians, for affording us the opportunity tonight to be here. Until we talk to you tomorrow night, please allow me to borrow the wordings of the wise man. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The heart of a man is never known until he rises, and there's no second chance to make that first impression. All right? Gracias to Bagige, Seven Flora, and Jacob, and Chiraji. Now you know me, God. A bald-headed man does not walk under the moonlight. The medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of Liberia. Yours true, ASHFORD the Giant. Now you know me, Garley. Have a good
Kiamsito, voy a Ville de Belle. Hey, hey, Hoka. Hey, hey, Hoka. Hey, hey, Hoka. Salimata Keita. De Samassa Record à New York. Hey, hey. Dansez, mesdames, mesdemoiselles et messieurs, au rythme de la guitare rythmique de l'Okasayambongo. Hey, hey, hey. Passe Matuta à la guitare basse. Et t'es bruit, et t'es bruit, et t'es bruit. Tout le monde était bruit. Bibi dance, Chamuto, chamuto bakata, chamuto baguluta guluta, chamuto.